Hi, this is Brian with ActiveMelody.com. In this week's guitar lesson, we have an old school classic rock style driving rhythm. It's got some blues licks, some fill licks that are thrown in. There's some Keith Richards influence. It's so much fun to play, and the jam track that comes with the lesson this week is particularly fun to play over. So the point of this lesson is to really give you ideas for how you can improvise when you're playing rhythm by adding in your own fill licks and all of that. We're going to take this lesson and we're going to explore both the science and the art of it. So we're going to get very scientific about when you come in. I'll have some visual aids on the screen to help with that. But then we'll explore, the key of the song, the different scales that I'm using, so that you can start to take this in your own direction. So I've got the lesson split into two parts. In this video, we'll explore the first half. If you want to learn the second half, watch that video. Download the tablature and the MP3 jam tracks, which I have in multiple tempos. You can get all of those things by going to ActiveMelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP347. Alright, so we've got this classic rock rhythm. It's got sort of an old school Rolling Stones, Keith Richards thing with a little bit of overdrive. And this is my favorite style of playing. I have so much fun when I can play a rhythm and throw in fill licks, especially when you're playing with a group. And if you're a premium member, you'll have access to the jam track, and you can be part of that group in a virtual sense. So this is a question I get all the time from people, is about timing, strumming. How do I do that? How do I improve that? And this lesson is really designed to give you ideas for how to do that and how to feel the music. That's a hard thing to teach, by the way. It's a lot like the analogy I could come up with is dancing. Now, I'm not a dancer, but from what I understand, a lot of dancing is just closing your eyes and feeling the rhythm, letting that kind of get into your psyche, and then you can start to act on that feeling. Well, it's the same thing when you're playing rhythm like this. So some of it is art, but a lot of it is science, and it's sort of mixing the two. And so we're going to try and do that. And I'm going to need your help on this lesson as I go through it. I'm going to do some things different than I've done before, where I'm going to put some things on the screen to try and help with visual aids and that kind of thing. Leave a comment. That's the help I'm going to need. Leave a comment. Let me know, am I getting too in the weeds? Is this boring, or is it helpful? Or what could I do to improve this? Because I've really struggled with this myself from a instructional standpoint. How can I make this this kind of lesson as effective as I can? All right, so this song that we're going to be playing is in the key of A, and I've got some overdrive going on. I'm actually playing through the Kemper, but I've got a 2-rock amp simulation that I'm playing through, or an amp profile. Very cool amp, and it's got the right amount of breakup. It's heavy, but it's not too heavy. So I don't know what your amp situation is at home, but try and get some overdrive, a little bit of reverb. That's all you need. It's nothing special. There's no delays or any crazy modifications other than that. This is the vibe that we're going for. So it's this A chord where I'm just barring here on the 2nd fret, barring the first 4 strings. We're playing strings 5, 4, and 3. And then we go to the D chord. And what I'm doing for that is I'm keeping the bar, but I'm putting my middle finger down on the 3rd fret, 2nd string, my ring finger on the 4th fret, 4th string, and you play those same middle strings, 5, 4, 3, and 2. That's a D chord. There's your D chord that's in the middle of that. It's just got that F sharp note in it, which is not the way a lot of us are used to playing a D chord. But that's what's going on there. And that to me is the Keith Richards thing. You hear that kind of thing all the time when he's playing rhythm. So that's the groove, is Now how do you do that? All right, so let me just play through this, and I want you to watch my right hand and notice that it's just staying in motion the whole time. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, and it just stays. You know, you keep that motion even when I'm not playing. I still keep the motion going, and that's the dancing part. And that's the scientific part. That's the part that doesn't really waver. That, you know, it's very locked in. Now, the art part of this is when to throw in a chord or a lead lick. I mean, and there's no right answer. You could play. You could come in all these little spots, and as long as that right hand is in motion, it's going to be okay. It reminds me a lot of a sequencer. If you've ever set up a sequencer and you set up your tempo, and you put in little points of where you want, as the scrubber goes by, where you want to hear a sound, it's going to sound good as long as the scrubber's moving at the same speed, and that's what your right hand is doing. So if you can use that as an analogy. So let's get scientific now about how to play this thing exactly the way that I played it. Now remember, as you're going through it, even though I'm going to show you exactly the way that I played it, I would probably do this different every time I did it. I mean, just the nature of it. Anybody would. You will too. And I want you to not necessarily walk away with trying to memorize and get so into the weeds that you're missing the dance. You're missing the art part of it. So you have to start off by memorizing something, but then you can branch out from there and you can start to put your own feel into it, your own fill licks, all of that stuff. All right, so as I mentioned, we're in the key of A, and this is counted in 16th notes. And so the way that you count 16th notes, and I'll put this on the screen, it's 1 eanda, 2 eanda, 3 eanda, 4 eanda. If you count all of those, there's 16 of them. But it's too cumbersome to count to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it makes it more rhythmic to say 1 eanda, 2 eanda. You can sort of see where you're at or feel where you're at in the timing easier that way. And so I'm going to show you on the screen, we'll accent where I'm at when I'm playing the rhythm part. So in this first one, we're going to come in on the 1, we're going to come in on the of 1, we're going to come in on the of 3, and we're going to come in on the 4. Now that sounds completely crazy as you just hear me verbalize it, but when I play along and you watch this, it's going to start to make sense. So check this out. You have 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. So you can see that I'm coming in, I'm strumming on all those points. Now the first strum was a down stroke, the second one was an upstroke, and then the third and fourth were both downstrokes. So there was really only one upstroke when I was playing music. The rest of it was just ups and downs, and so I would do that a little different every time. You can keep it clicking the whole time, playing the muted strums if you want. You don't have to do that, but you know, there's different ways to do it. Now, if you're a premium member, you'll have access to the tab, and I was very specific about you know, what I did in between the chords, but I'm not going to get into that necessarily because I think it's going to be too much in this video. So let's back up and play through that again with it on the screen. So we have 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. All right, so that's the first time through. Now the second time through starts off exactly the same. We come in on the 1 E and but then we're going to start a fill lick on the of 2. So it's 1 E and 2 E and That's the fill lick. Now this fill lick is all the A major pentatonic scale, pattern 1. Look at where this is. When you're playing an A chord right here on the 2nd fret by barring on that 2nd fret, your pattern 1 of the major pentatonic scale for A looks like that. Look at how that connects to that chord shape. So now, if you're ever playing that A chord shape, right beside it there, actually where the bar is where your index finger would go as you're playing pattern 1. That should give you a ton of ideas right there. Now you can start to throw in fill licks because they're right off that chord shape. And you could obviously transpose that and play that in any key. If you want to play it in C, you can do the same thing. The same rules apply. Okay, so let's go back to A. So that first lick goes. and now you know where it's coming from, pattern 1. I'm starting with a pre-bend and a release. That's the 4th fret 3rd string. Then we come down to the 2nd fret 3rd string, and then 4th fret 4th string, 2nd fret 4th string. So you can see it's just a little box there. And now I'm going to go, and that's just the 2nd fret 3rd string. I'm going to go down, up with the right hand, and we're going to go to the 4th fret 3rd string, down, up, 2nd fret 4th string. So we have, and then we're going to repeat that again, and it ends there. So it's 2nd fret 3rd string twice, down, up, and then that last downstroke is on the 4th fret 4th string. Now the only other thing I was doing to that, when I played through it, I was using some palm muting. So it went, and that's just something you hear in a lot of funk, especially if you listen to like the Michael Jackson Thriller album. You hear a lot of that muted guitar thing, and that was very common back in the day. So just remember that lick comes in on the of 2. So let's start it from the second time through. So we have 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and now we're to the next measure, 1 E and 2 E and Okay, so that's the next time through. That lick ends, the last note there is on the and of 1. 1 E and 2 E and and then there's an upstroke that happens on the of 2. So that's in a different place, and I know this is where it gets crazy, and this is why I'm putting it on the screen, because I couldn't think of any other way to demonstrate this. So that second time, 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4. Now that time, every time we get to the 3 is 3 E and 4. I'm strumming that and of 3 and then the 4. So that's the first 3 times through. Let me back up from the beginning and we'll play through it. I'll try and vocalize it as we're going through it. It's hard for me to do, but we have 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and Alright, so this fourth time through, it starts exactly the same. We have 1 E and 2 E and Now on the of 2, 2 E and we're going to start the next lick. Now here's what the next lick sounds like without me counting. Really cool lick, very useful fill lick. So I'm going to keep that bar down on the 4th fret, bar in the first, or on the 2nd fret, sorry, bar in the first 4 strings. I'm going to come with my middle finger to the 3rd fret, 5th string, doing a hammer on to the 4th fret, and then we're going to play 2, 4 on the 4th string, and then the 2nd fret, 3rd string. Now we're going to go back down, so that would be the 4th fret and the 2nd fret on the 4th string. So we have, and then watch this. There's a little triplet there. That's a hammer-on between the 3rd fret, 5th string, 4th fret, 5th string, and then we come up to the 2nd fret, 3rd string, and then back down to that open A, which is the open 5th string. So all together that lick goes. Now when I play that A note, that open 5th string, that's the start of the next measure. So that would be your 1 E and and so we're going to come in on the of that first of the 1. So 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. Same as we did that first time through. The only difference is we just played the single A note instead of the full A chord there at the end of that leg. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. Alright, so the next time through after that, we're going to play, start at the same, 1 E and 2 E and then there's another lick that happens on the of 2, 1 E and 2 E and Here's the lick. Now what I was doing was I was thinking about the A minor pentatonic scale. So everything we've been playing so far has been down in the major pentatonic scale, pattern 1. I shifted up to minor pentatonic scale pattern 1. It gives a little more of a bluesy feel. Even though this note is not in the minor pentatonic scale, that's actually in the major pentatonic scale pattern 2. But we're just kind of blending those two scales. But I'm in that pattern 1 position, I guess, in my head. So we're going to do a slide from the 5th fret 3rd string up to the 6th fret on the 3rd string, 5th fret 2nd string, 6th fret 7th fret 2nd string. Actually, all of those notes are in the major pentatonic scale pattern 2. But in my head, I'm sort of in position to go into that minor pentatonic. So I'm going to slide now up to the 8th fret 2nd string, slide back down to the 7th fret 2nd string, 5th fret 2nd string, 5th fret 3rd string, and then we're going to come down to the 7th fret 4th string, and then that last note is the 5th fret 3rd string, sort of trails off. Okay, so that's the lick. And then at the end of that lick, I'm going to have that little pop that comes in, that upstroke, on the of 2. All right, so counting this out, this is difficult for me to do. But it's something like this. It's 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and so you can see that upstroke on the of 2. So 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and then the last time through just goes. And if we wanted to count that out, it'd be 1 E and that's the same. 1 E and 2 E and there is on the of 2. 1 E and 2 E and and by the way, all that is strings 1 and 2 on the 5th fret. So you can think of that as 2 notes in the major pentatonic scale pattern 1, or 2 notes in the minor pentatonic scale pattern 1. Either way, that's all I'm doing, is I'm just hitting this, and then I'm going to go up to the 7th fret. So it's 5th fret, 7th fret. So it's 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 4 E and those are the licks. I know it's like some of you are probably loving this, because I know some of you are very scientific and now you've got all the science you need so you can sit and dissect it, and some of you are probably hating it. At least you've got the licks and you know where the licks are coming from, so they're not complicated. They're just major pentatonic scale or minor pentatonic scale, and you can play from whatever patterns you want. And you can mix it up, but I'm giving you all the tools here and the science behind it. But then I want you to take it and start to kind of do your own thing, and that's why that jam track is so important. And I've got it in multiple tempos. If this is too fast, you can take the slower one and just try and get the groove before you even do anything. Just get that groove down over and over again. Kind of get that whole thing going, and then start throwing in fill licks and other things. Now, there's another whole part to this, which I'm going to save for the second half. But let me go over this one more time. I'll go through it slowly, and then I'll see you in part 2. We'll learn the second half. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4.